The police unknowingly stumble upon a serial predator when they visit a local handyman's house to gather information about a missing woman. It's only after following a trail of clues linked to the woman's disappearance on April 22, 2022, that investigators uncover a dark history of deception and manipulation. In Burnley, a tranquil market town in northern England where Dawn Kenyon lives with her family, the peace is disrupted by a troubling message from her 33-year-old daughter, Katie. Katie, a devoted single mother of two, has been battling anxiety and often keeps in touch with her mother throughout the day. Concerned by the unusual content of Katie's latest message, Dawn becomes convinced that it wasn't her daughter who wrote it. When Dawn's attempts to reach Katie fail and calls go unanswered, she enlists her other daughters, Jenny and Sarah, to help. Together, they quickly realize something is terribly amiss. Katie's dedication to her children is well known, especially since her split from their father, as she has focused entirely on creating a loving and stable home, even for her beloved dog, Indy, whom she walks regularly. Faithfully ever since getting her. That she would just get up and go is unthinkable. By early afternoon, everyone in Katie's family had gone in search of her. Katie's usual parking spot outside her house is empty. When she uses a spare key to enter the house, her family discovers that everything is in working order. However, Katie has vanished along with her phone, wallet, and other essentials. She hasn't communicated with any of her friends or neighbors since the previous day, and the family's worries only get worse. When Katie's kids finish up for the day at school, Katie's kids get identical messages from their mother on their phones. Katie's 12-year-old daughter received a message at 12:18 p.m. that said, "I love you and I'm sorry. Ring your dad. He'll be looking after you for a while from today. I need to get help so I can be a better person for you and your brother. Please know that I love you and I'm not upset with you. If your dad won't look after you, Andy will always have your back. Remember, ring your dad or Andy." This was the same text that Katie's son, who was 14 at that time, had received. "Hey dude, I love you and I'm sorry. You need to ring your dad. He will be looking after you from today. I need to get help. It's not you I love you. Will you look after your sister and know Andy will always have your back? Get your dad to come and get you while I'm gone. If he won't look after you, get him to take you to Andy." The wording and writing style of both messages didn't sound like Katie, even if they had originated from her number. There was still more. Every message misspells the term without the letter H. Katie had never spelled the word incorrectly before. Her family has a visceral feeling that Katie did not write these messages. But who would it be if not Katie? Not just Katie has been messaging people that afternoon. Katie's intermittent boyfriend, Andrew Burfield, a 50-year-old handyman and contractor mentioned in the chats, has messaged Katie's son on Instagram informing him that his mother has left for a clinic and asked him to look after their dog Indy until she returns. They hadn't yet gotten in touch with Andrew Burfield, aware that the two had resumed their relationship. By 5:00 p.m., Sarah, Katie's sister, had located his information and put him on the phone. Burfield informs Sarah that he hasn't seen Katie since the previous day because he spent the entire day working on a construction site. Nonetheless, he acknowledges getting text from her. Katie texted him at 2:00, telling him she was going to put her bank card, car keys, and green slip through his letterbox to pay him the money she owed. She mentioned in a different message that she intended to visit a clinic that day in order to receive anxiety treatment. It said, "I want you to know I am truly sorry for everything." In one of the texts, he tells Sarah that he wasn't concerned and that he didn't have anything further to say, assuming she's being theatrical. Sarah and her family were alarmed by Burfield's refusal to assist. Sarah and her boyfriend Anthony traveled to Andrew's home on Todmorton Road in the neighboring community of Pettenham. But when they arrived outside his house, they found something for which they were unprepared.
These guys outside are concerned about Katie. Do you know where she is?
Yeah. No, I don't. What's happened is that I got a text at 2:30
Today?
Yeah, saying I came to your house this morning. I'll show you the text.
From Katie?
Yeah.
Right.
But when I picked the kids up from school and came home, the keys down behind the door. So we came into the keys behind the door, so she's been.
Sorry, back to the item she's dropped. Do we have a time frame of when we think she'll drop those items?
I don't mind getting up at half 8 at school at half 8. Came back this morning, She told me she was on a walk.
She what, sorry?
She told me, she said she dropped the car off this morning. And the stuff. Before that message came through, so, what you up to, that's me, what you up to, guys? And that were at 1:30. She put, just out on a walk. You?
Burfield is regarded by the police as laid back and pleasant. He jokes that they can peek in his van in the attic, as well as inside his house, when he extends an invitation for them to come inside. However, a thorough inspection of the area reveals nothing alarming. Police start looking into missing persons right away.
The Bowland Forest is a densely forested area that stretches outward for around 25 kilometers. 60 professional officers from 4 different police units are handling the inquiry, making it one of the largest missing person searches in the region's history. Police and fire personnel, canine dogs, mounted police, volunteer mountain rescuers, drones, underwater search teams, and air support equipped with heat source cameras are all part of the search force. Despite having access to abundant resources, finding Katie in this forest would be a daunting task. But everything will change when a witness comes forward. A member of the public noticed a silver Ford Transit van parked in the Gisborne Forest portion of Boland's Forest at approximately 9:30 a.m. on April 22nd. The van, according to the witness, shares Burfield's car's characteristic black panel on one side. After focusing their search on a 5 meters radius around the parking site, after becoming convinced that this is Burfield's vehicle, in a follow-up police interview, Burfield acknowledges to the officers that he and Katie indeed visited Gisborne Forest that day. He claims that Katie developed the practice of recording all of her ideas in a journal and burning the pages afterward to purge herself of the issues. One of their picnic plans included Katie setting fire to her journal notes. No one accepts this justification. Sarah, Katie's sister, posts on Facebook that the search is still ongoing and that all that's left is to wait. Although Katie's family is going through a terrible time waiting, one thing is known for sure. Someone is to blame for Katie's disappearance. Additionally, her family has long harbored doubts about Andrew Burfield. In 2019, Katie was going through a particularly trying time when she ran into Burfield. At 50 years old, Burfield appeared to be steady and to have his life together. He was a single father of 2, just like Katie. He was sympathetic and cognizant of her difficulties. However, her family soon became aware of some alarming symptoms because of Andrew's dominance. Katie soon started acting differently in order to appease Burfield. They had also started having regular fights. When Katie's family noticed, Burfield would tell her that her thoughts were distorted by her anxiety when she would communicate her feelings. It was soon evident that he was controlling and manipulating her by using her emotional state as a weapon. This was, of course, a side of Burfield that was already well known to those who knew him. Years before Katie, people had long viewed Burfield as a pathological liar, manipulator, and fantasist. He had multiple run-ins with the law throughout the years. In 2001, he faced imprisonment for attempting to obstruct justice after stealing his boss's car, which he later sold for £2,700. He then managed to get a former lover to provide him with a fake alibi. In addition, he was an obsessive womanizer. His computer records revealed that he was making advances on women on every platform he could find, including dating websites and Facebook. Katie's family hadn't met the actual Andrew Burfield, but he wasn't the kind of man you would want in your home. They were aware that he liked to tell Katie over and over again that she had a mental illness, and then make her more reliant on him by offering to cover her treatment costs. In good faith, Katie took his money for counseling, but by 2021, their arguments had gotten so bad that they had parted ways. Katie expressed her desire for a new beginning for her family. Conversely, Burfield had not reacted well to the breakup. Katie awoke to discover cuts on the tires of her Ford Fiesta. She never reported the incident to the police, even though she never disclosed to anyone that she thought Andrew was the culprit. She then received a high court writ on February 18, 2022, stating that she owed Andrew Burfield £4,000 for therapy fees. She lacked the necessary funds, and when the deadline passed, the amount of past due fees increased, leaving her owing more than £6,000. Soon, her anxiousness escalated when she realized she couldn't afford the money. She was afraid that debt collectors would seize all she owned, including the priceless home she had built for her kids. It wasn't simply the money that troubled Katie. She started calling Burfield the gentle con artist to friends and family. There was a worry in Katie about what Burfield could do. She expressed her fear of him in a message to her mother Dawn. Dawn recalls another text she got from Katie, which stated, "I'm terrified to death that he's going to do anything. I slept poorly the entire night." Katie also warned her sister that Burfield would face consequences. However, Andrew appeared to have a sudden change of heart. On March 20th, 2022, he assured Katie that he would cover the late fees and make sure the debt collectors stopped bothering her. Katie explained this to the debt firm by email on March 8th, along with Burfield's commitment to cover the remaining amount. He also asked for pardon in a moment of weakness. Katie gave in, and they made up on March 9th. The day after informing Katie that he would cover her past due costs, Burfield called the debt collectors and asked them to increase the pressure on her by pulling threads and playing with her. Burfield was purposefully trying to put more pressure on her, so that cooperating with him would be her only option. He called the debt collectors once more on March 25th, this time claiming that Katie had visited his home and mistreated him. He insisted that they make her pay the money. He responded to Katie's panicked message by telling her that she was exaggerating and that she might consider visiting a mental health facility. In the interim, he wrote, "I think we need to get you back on the right path, babes." However, new information regarding Andrew Burfield's activities in the days leading up to and following Katie's abduction will soon be available to detectives. After Katie went missing on Saturday morning, the owner of a house on Burnley's Hillington Road informed the police that Burfield had suddenly shown up at around 8 o'clock in the morning. The homeowner asserts that Burfield asked about the day they picked up his trash cans from the roadway. That seemed strange to him. When officers arrived on the scene, they discovered that the dumpsters were still full. They found a blood-stained plastic bag under home debris. There were multiple extremely blood-stained bags inside, as well as a pair of flip-flops that matched the description of the ones Katie had been wearing. And then they realized Katie was missing. They're aware that Katie's ex-partner is Andrew Burfield, and they thought, why is he asking about the bins? When they've checked in their bin, they then find that underneath, buried under their refuse, is another bag with bags within bags that contain a pair of train of flip-flops that seem to match those of Katie's visually. What we now know is in those bags also was a number of heavily blood-stained bags, So at which point then we thought and believed they potentially could be KES. And that's the first time we believe potentially she'd come to some sort of harm. Her heartbroken family is trying to process this horrific new information. Burfield is willing to participate in another police interrogation while the authorities expedite the forensic testing of the blood traces. He tells the police that he and the other person visited the woodland on that particular day, having been there 2 previous times. Katie had bet with Burfield that he couldn't throw the axe accurately enough to knock a Coke can out of her hand. After they had set up their picnic and noticed an axe on top of a cooler box, Katie had just started to sit down when he went for a tree and flung the axe with both arms overhead. He was horrified to see it go straight at Katie. "No, I can't even say it's lit bell nothing. I just don't even know what went wrong. It's the stupidest thing I'll ever do. That's so stupid. How close was she from you?" 10. There's no help there. There's nothing, no people there signal on the phone. They can't carry her. They carry her. Sort of a boyfriend. Can't carry you. Girlfriend, talk me through these next seconds. Then this has happened now. That's don't what doing on this 2 straight subsequently. He became quite anxious because he could not get her body to his van. He left her in the forest. He made a grave and buried her in it, covering it with logs and leaves so that animals wouldn't find her. He then marked the location by attaching a bag to a tree. He added that his current goal was to return home, take care of his kids, organize his finances, and end his life. In a frenzy, he added, he had burned Katie's phone on a log burner, thrown the charred remnants in a nearby trash can, and then switched his SIM card to a new phone. Yes, Andrew, you've told us a lot over the last few days, haven't you? And you've told us a lot certainly today. A lot of information, and a lot of it just does not add up. Okay, and ultimately, we don't believe you of what you said. Okay, I do not believe that this has been an accident. This is about your control and your over K, and you're losing the control for more evidence. Homicide investigators search Burfield's home and van. This time they find blood in Andrew Burfield's washing machine. However, they are unable to prove that it was anything other than an accident in the absence of a body. However, a forensic review of Burfield's phone will reveal more about the depths of his deranged thinking. Burfield last backed up his iPhone to iCloud on April 4th. Upon reviewing its contents, it became evident that in spite of Burfield's previous declarations of love for Katie, he had started seeing someone else in secret. In their text back and forth, Burfield informs the woman that he has a portfolio of properties across the country. They discussed buying a house together and even moving to Scotland. Meanwhile, Burfield asked to borrow a shovel and drove to his parents' house the day before Katie disappeared. Shortly after, CCTV captured his van returning from Gisborne Forest. He switched off his phone for 90 minutes before reactivating it at 10:03 p.m. on April 22nd. The following morning, he and Katie exchanged messages once more. In a message to Andrew, Katie expressed her excitement for a new chapter and her readiness for the picnic. Burfield promised to take her to a special unit so she could finally receive help. However, Burfield had not brought his phone to the woodland that day. According to the phone data, Katie had made her final phone call at 9:07 a.m. Her phone had lost connection to the local cell network between 10:24 and 11:15 a.m. Katie's phone began sending odd texts at 12:18 p.m., informing her family that she was leaving. At 12:34 p.m., Burfield texted the woman he was seeing on his own phone, informing her that he would not be able to attend their scheduled date due to an issue with his kids. Then he texted Katie's mother and kids using her phone. In addition, he had sent himself multiple messages from Katie's phone asking about her well-being and requesting that she give him a call. He had also left voicemails for her. He sent a message to the woman he was seeing again that evening, stating that he was completely exhausted. However, the worst was still to come, as the police are about to learn. They find several lengthy prepared messages saved on the phone's notes app. Burfield had composed the texts, and they had subsequently undergone numerous edits and revisions. The final drafts were nearly word-for-word copies of the letters he had sent to Katie's parents. The most terrifying aspect, though, is that the original was written on March 17th, several weeks before Burfield brought Katie to them. He had been plotting Katie's murder for more than a month. In a third interview, Burfield tells investigators he visited the woodland the day before April 22nd, but he is unaware of the full scope of the evidence against him. He claims to have gone on for a dog walk before telling the police that it seemed like a nice location for the picnic he and Katie had planned for the next day. Concurrently, the specialized search team discovered a bag fastened to a tree. By utilizing the fresh details revealed by Burfield's admission, however, they failed to locate any indication of a grave or burial place. Feeling lost, they decide to take a chance and ask Burfield to locate the burial place. Police, his lawyer, and other witnesses bring Burfield, handcuffed and wearing a forensic suit, to a location approximately 70 meters from his van's last known location in Gisborne Forest. He takes a seat there, a few meters from the site where the cops had previously dug. Burfield points out a location that police should investigate further. Burfield's sitting location is in a heavily forested area with untouched grass and flora. There's no dirt mound, nothing that looks like a grave that was dug in a hurry. But as much as we were hopeful, we found her. There were a couple of things that were unusual as well about that grave. In terms of unusual, for example, if you are to place a body inside a grave, the void, the size of one of us inside a grave, you would expect to create a mound. Subsequently, you wouldn't have a perfectly flat surface. This had a perfectly flat surface. It was finished impeccably to a point where you would not even realize a grave was there. If you're going to listen to his account, and you know that he's been there for 51 minutes, if you're going to dig a hole in order to put somebody into as part of a grave, you would expect that it was done in haste. You'd expect you would dig a hole very, very quickly, not taking time and precision over it. What he has actually done he's actually taken layers. So he's took a layer of topsoil, a layer of soil, put them on the side, a layer of clay, put it on the side. So actually, when you start to excavate, there's no difference in the two types of soil. So this part here looks like the same as this, looks like it to be undisturbed, has been laid back exactly as it taken away. Their reservations aside, excavation gets underway. The removal of dirt reveals a nearby tree's root network, which further perplexes authorities. However, the excavation reveals human remains located several feet deep. There has been a tragic end to the search for Katie. I want to bring you some breaking news now, coming to us from Lancashire Police in connection with the search for missing Katie Kenyon, 33-year-old, a mother of two, the news anchor reported. The police say they have sadly found the body of a woman. The discovery was made last night in an area, part of the Forest of Bowland, after receiving new information. And at this stage, they say they're not in a position to formally confirm the woman's identity, but they do believe that the body is that of Katie. Her family have been told, and they continue to be supported by specially trained officers. So a body has been found in the search for missing Katie Kenyon. Andrew Burfield, who's 50 and of Burnley, has been charged with her murder. How had he been able to hide the body for so long without damaging any of the roots that ran through the burial site? Burfield painstakingly removed each layer of dirt and topsoil that had been placed beside the grave before reinstalling them in exactly the same order. Forensic botanists and archaeologists asserted that Burfield could not have excavated the tomb in the time he was known to have spent in the forest with Katie. It took careful preparation and time to create this grave. The forensic team also found footprints from two different pairs of shoes near the grave, suggesting that they had excavated it on different days. In the meantime, the postmortem results for Katie painted a totally different story than what Burfield had told the authorities. Burfield had struck Katie in the head 12 times, not just once. A pathologist reported that a heavy object, possibly an axe or spade, struck Katie, resulting in numerous fractures and severe head trauma. The funeral service for Katie took place in May 2022. Her family and other loved ones gathered to pay their respects, and mourners trailed behind a horse-drawn carriage bearing her casket. Her family explained to the mourners that the loss of their cherished mother, sister, and daughter had left them feeling trapped in a terrible dream. On November 14, 2022, Andrew Burfield's trial got underway. He made a not guilty plea. A 3-week trial period is anticipated. The prosecution presents the results of the coroner's report along with their case. They claim that for weeks, Burfield had been pressuring Katie to fulfill her debt in order to carry out his murderous scheme, which he had conceived weeks earlier, all the while making sure she was obedient to him. On the third day of his trial, Andrew Burfield abruptly changed his plea to guilty in Katie Kenyon's murder. In the face of overwhelming evidence against him, a life sentence with a minimum of 32 years in jail awaits him. Burfield's actions have no rational justification and no ulterior motive. Unable to manage Katie, Burfield decided to plan her murder, instead destroying the life of a devoted young mother and shattering a family.